All right, would the meeting please come to order? We're going to try to move on quickly as possible. We've got a busy schedule today. I'd like to ask you once again to please remember, turn your cell phones off. Again, if there's anybody who would like to get a message to anyone up here, please give, you'll see over here on this table, Janet or Jacob, give them the message. They'll bring it to members of the committee, please. Remember, we are being televised. So at this time to start off, I'd like to ask Representative Nix if he would please give our invocation.
Let's pray. Father, again, we come to thank you for the beautiful world we live in, a beautiful day we have, and just pray for your wisdom and knowledge that we might do the things that are right for the students and the teachers and the people of this great state. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Representative Nix. You know, I hope y'all heard what he said about, let's keep those students first for the students. That's what it's all about, so we want to remember that. So, again, I'd like to ask anyone who's out there in the audience, this is your first time with us, please stand up. Let us meet you and know who you are, and tell us where you're from and your name.
Hello, Joyce Walden. I'm representing you working for the legislative committee for PTA, state PTA.
Great, glad to have you with us. Anyone else that's here for the first time? Yes. Very good. Glad to have you with us. I certainly appreciate you being here today. Yes. Thank you. Glad to have you with us. Anyone else? Yes, sir. A lobbyist for? Very good. Glad to have you with us. All right. Anyone else? Any principals, teachers, or superintendents? Teachers especially. Any teachers? Raise your hands. We're always glad to have them. They are probably working where they can't get out. Yeah. Okay. All right. Without any further delay, I'd like to this time to call on our Vice Chair, Representative Casas, who will assign. We have, I think, 3 or 4 pieces of legislation need to be assigned. So, David, you're number 21. So.
That's correct, sir. Mr. Chairman, we will be. We have 3 pieces of legislation that have been submitted to the committee. I know that there's more on the way. But we have House Bill 230 by Representative Setzler, which has to do with the criminal law curriculum, and that's being assigned to the Academic Achievement and Curriculum Subcommittee. We have House Bill 257 by Representative Morgan on the teacher performance. It's actually a bill that has to do with really in guidelines for hiring and firing. And what we're doing is we're putting that bill in academic support with Representative Nix. And we have House Resolution 248 by Representative Earhart, just a resolution about the intent to fund the National Board of Certified Teachers. That will be in academic achievement and curriculum. And that's all we have.
That's it. We've heard, and we will have heard, I guess, next week you plan to, I understand that next week on academic achievement, well, you know this, academic achievement will be next Wednesday. Is that correct?
That's correct. We can announce it right now.
And you plan to hear?
That will be next Wednesday at 1 p.m. It will be next Wednesday at 1 p.m. in room 506 CLOB. And we will be hearing House Bill 181 by Representative Golick, House Bill 186 by Representative Nix, and House Resolution 248 by Representative Earhart. Good. So those 3 bills will be heard on that day. And
I don't know that you had time, Representative Nix, to think when you would meet next time, do you? Do you have?
No, since I just got
to have the 2 bills, so you'll be notifying them through Janet. All of you do know that outside the door, Janet has a great system for notifying you. There's a sheet, 2 pockets have got schedules, so if anyone's uninformed, it's your problem. And also, once again, we're getting ready to put together our little manual, our lobbyist, or our Friends of Education manual. So, and I'm going to get some of you to help us with that. You know, we talked about that last time. David McCleskey, I don't know if he's here. I'm going to get him to use his expertise and maybe get with a couple others and to show us how he did that. But we want to put that. That was a wonderful document, and we want to try to get that together because we have a 2-year term, and we do need to have that done. So please go by and be sure Janet has your name, your addresses, emails, cell phones, where we can get in touch with you at all times. And also, we are looking, once again, I'll announce this. We have, where is Josh Mackey here today? All right, he's planning our dinner. And so if you haven't got with Josh, we're going to probably do that next couple of weeks. And I'll notify the committee. It'll be our committee dinner. And Josh is putting that together for us. So see him if you'd like to be a part of that and help Josh, because that would be him do that, because he'd appreciate it. And we're also putting together 2 lunches that we're going to provide. So get with Janet. We're asking for them to be done on Tuesdays because our conference room is tied up on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We're going to try to have a couple of lunches, and so go out to Janet if you'd like to help sponsor a lunch. And we're looking at things, and it'll be something like with the Mary Max, and she'll take care of it, but if you'd like to help, we'd appreciate that very, very much. And I hope all of you got to go by the Microsoft. If you got to see that, that was a very good meeting, and I hope you were able to get by and talk with the people there. The next piece of business, and we move on with the agenda for today, is your dues. Remember, we have caucus dues of $25, and Janet informs me that we're 50% there. That means most all of us have done it, so that's a good job. I don't think I have. She told me she wanted my money by Tuesday. I'll have it to you, Janet. I'll be sure to get you a check Monday. So that's to take care of flowers, and I know Representative Morgan, when you had your child, you got flowers, and I know that. They were, and I know, and others don't want to sacrifice to get them, but we'd rather get them for sicknesses and for flower and for births. So let's please do that. So that's right. So without any further delay, I'm going to turn the mic over to Representative Casas. We'll be taking up 4 bills today. We'll be taking up House Bill 192, House Bill 173, House Bill 172 and 175. And the first bill we'll be taking up is 192. The second bill we'll take up will be 172. Then we'll take up House Bill 175, then 173, in that order. Yeah, I'll just do that. Well, then, since I'm down there, Representative Casas says, I'll yield to you. We'll do 192, 172, and 173. So at this time, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. We don't have a mic. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, you will have before you House Bill 192. It is a substitute, LC 33-4031S. This passed out of the Subcommittee of Academic Achievement and Curriculum this afternoon. It was worked on yesterday and this afternoon. And Chairman Coleman, it's all yours.
Yes. Members of the committee, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, we'll be working from a substitute to 192 because the committee really worked it over, and I think they made some great improvements, and it's a very good piece of legislation or a model that we can work with. We'll be working from LC 33-4031S. Does everyone have a copy? Now, I do have some extra copies for members of the audience. I do ask that if you would, please share. I don't want everyone to have one, but if you'd like a copy, we'll try to help you out. Jacob will give you one if you'll hold up your hands. But at this time, members of the committee, before we start, what I'd like to do, I'd like to ask Mr. John Brown, who works with the House, and he's a great friend. And let me tell you, John Brown has worked with every education reform that's been in Georgia, except before he was born. He wanted, but y'all didn't catch that one. But he did. He's worked with all of them, and he's really worked hard. And he knows education funding like the palm of his hand. And I want to ask John, if he would, to come up at this time and just give us an overview of why this study or this piece of legislation is so critical, and then we'll go through the legislation. So, John, if you'd come forward at this time and give us an overview.
I know Brooks is going to go through the legislation, so I won't take too much time, but we've had 4 or 5 attempts through the years at revising QBE. Most of them have not turned out well for one reason or another. Some of it is we declare that we're going to do it and hold it revenue neutral, which you really can't do that. We've made reductions in education We're going to need to put some money back in the days ahead, as well as update the formula for inflation. Some of the problems that we've encountered through the years have been logistical ones, where we didn't set good goals and timelines and adhere to those. What you have in this bill is our best effort to put forward a legitimate study of K-12 education funding, looking at it through the framework that is QBE rather than throwing it totally out and starting over. Try to identify the things that have worked well, the things that haven't worked so well, things that need to be updated, perhaps things that didn't exist in 1985 that we rely on today, such as computers in the classroom, and just take a comprehensive look, not just at QBE, but some of the related issues such as partnership, the 5 mil share, equalization, a lot of items that because of age and neglect are now issues. And now is the time to do this before revenues fully recover. We think that hopefully the fiscal 12 budget will be the last budget that we have major cutting to do. When we get to fiscal 13, we'll probably be in a period of stability without a lot of new revenue, but we'll be able to hold our own. And then beyond fiscal 13, we should have some money that could address issues such as education funding, where we've made these reductions through the years. And I'll leave it to Representative Coleman to explain what's in the bill, but the bill itself is sort of a blueprint for trying to put together a committee with adequate representation, making sure that we have a lot of education input, that we have some timelines and milestones that we can meet, and allowing for plenty of input through ad hoc committee meetings and whatever we need to do to get there. And it'll encompass about 20 months, given the amount of items to be studied and addressed. I think anything less than from now till, say, the 2013 session would be cutting it short and doing something a disservice. But anyway, this is our attempt to try to do a legitimate study, and I keep emphasizing that because so many of the studies have never come to a conclusion, no final report, no recommendations. We actually believe this one, we're undertaking it, and that we're going to produce a final report. We expect at the end of the day it will cost money, more than we're currently spending on K-12 education. And the way we'll address that is at the very end, the very last piece of work to be done on this will be to try to establish some priorities as to what's most important to be funded, and we will set a schedule out, an implementation schedule, so as some new revenues come in, we can hopefully peel some revenues off and start applying towards getting education where it needs to be funding-wise.
Very well. Before Representative, Mr. Chairman, Representative Thomas, did you have a question for Mr. Brown? Absolutely.
Mr. Brown, do you recollect this IE squared thing we had going on a few years ago?
I try not.
I'll take that as a yes. Now, it was my understanding from the briefings we got that the primary purpose was to actually look at how we should fund and how we should structure funding for a quality education. And I've heard different answers from different people, so I'll just ask you directly, did they come up with any conclusions at all, or did they simply just stop midstream and throw it all away and come up with what they ended up coming up with, which had nothing to do with funding?
I'll answer the question as best I can to my knowledge. There were some attempts made at looking at certain costs to educate a child, the classroom costs, supply costs, maintenance and operations costs, as to whether there were any firm conclusions or what the backup data was and what the final solution. There was never a report that I saw, so I don't know. I think there were attempts made, but I just never saw the final product.
We don't know if there's actually data from that effort at all that could be incorporated into any other studies?
Well, I'll tell you this. If there is data, certainly on our list is to find out if there is anything so that we don't start from scratch, or at least we look at it as a frame of reference. But we'll just incorporate that into any other analysis that we do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Brown. Good question. Thank you. What I'd like to do now, I'd like for you to take the bill, and I'd like to just go through it with you. And remember, once again, this, where you'll know the speaker, not knowing what was going to happen during the election, what was going on, several of us met with the speaker and said to the speaker this summer, we need to really once and for all look at the funding for education. We need to make a difference. Talked with a lot of this group out here, the education establishment, and we said we really need to do something to help education and do it once and for all. And so the speaker pulled together 6 people. We wanted to be a bipartisan. That's important to know. We wanted to be a bipartisan committee. So the speaker appointed 6 people. He appointed Representative Carter, Representative Maxwell, Representative, there she is, Kaiser. He appointed me. He appointed Representative Dixon and Representative England. And he gave us a charge, 6-8 months ago, I think, and said, I want you to come up with a model. I'm not asking you to make any recommendations of what we need to do, but come up with a model that we could use for doing a study that would be for the first time a study that's legislated, a joint study. In the past, as you know, governors have just said, we're going to have a study. I'll get a chamber to handle it, and I'll get this group to handle it. I've been involved in myself in QBE, adequate programs, APEG, way before than QBE. I was involved as the principal there. I was involved in 1187. Representative Ash, you remember 1187. You chaired part of that study yourself. I know you. And Representative Purcell, you were involved in 1187. And then we did the I-square that some of us were at points were involved in that. So we felt, let's do it right. This gentleman right here has been involved in all of them. He knows the budget better than anybody. So we got together. We did this. We then made a recommendation to the speaker. I want to say the governor has endorsed this. The governor's behind us. This is going to be a joint thing between the governor. The Senate had people involved. Freddie Sims, do y'all know who Representative Sims? We didn't have a chair at that time at the Senate, so we had Irene and we had Senator Butterworth. I think that was the group, if I'm not mistaken. If there's any others, and Irene Munn worked with us, so we had a joint group working together. We made our recommendations for this. We then got with the governor. The governor's endorsed this. We put together with Betsy a piece of legislation, and this, again, is a model. It's been hashed. One thing I want to say to you, we've talked with a lot of people about this model. Immediately after this meeting, anyone who wants to stay, this group here has been invited. I expect all of them to stay just to make comments. Now, they've already made comments, but this is further comments, things they want to say as we get into the study. Next week, next Tuesday, all of you are invited at 2 o'clock up in my conference room. We're going to have 16 RESA districts. We've invited a superintendent from every RESA district and the teacher of the year from each RESA district. Not the same system, where we could have, I forgot to say also, Kathy Ash right here. When Representative Carter was appointed to the governor's floor leader, Representative Ash was appointed to that committee. I don't want to leave her out. So we've had 7 people who've been involved in this study all along. But what we did now, we are going to meet with the superintendents, the teachers, again, just to get feedback. What do you see this study looking like and we need to do? So hopefully, people, one thing that we've got the complaints from, and y'all can say amen to that. I feel like a Baptist preacher. Y'all haven't had input, haven't been involved. If people say they haven't been involved, I'm going to be shocked because we tried to involve everybody. So let's walk through the bill quickly. Page 1. This is the history. I'm not going to go through that. We talk about, John has talked to you about the history of studies, APEG, QB, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One thing we found in all these studies, some of the commissions were as many as 60 and 70 people. People, that's too many. I remember 1187, Representative Ash, Representative Purcell. Y'all remember? We couldn't even have a chance to, by the time everybody had 1 minute to say something, the time was up. So it was just too many. We never got to break down in subgroups, tried to do it all. It was almost impossible. Some groups have been too small. Some have involved no one. So what we felt like, the members of this study committee felt like that a 20 to 25 to 30 was the maximum number it should be for a working people steering committee. Remember that. So if you look on page 2, lines 25 to 31, just talks about creating a study commission to evaluate the quality basic education formula and look at it. And if you'll notice line 31, it says the commission will be composed of 27 members. Now, let me tell the entire committee, that was 25, but after extensive debate, raise your hand, members of the subcommittee, where everybody see you. Where's the subcommittee members? Raise your hand where everybody see you. This group right here debated, discussed, and decided they wanted to add 2 other positions, and I'll go through those. So we've added 27 people now, and we feel like we have a committee that will work. I want you to look now at line 32. The following members will be appointed by the governor. That's the agreement we made. The governor will make these appointments. He will appoint a local superintendent. Now, any of you, well, I'm sure he's going to have a process we're recommending. We'll talk about this. That will let you know. He'll take recommendations. If you think a superintendent should be or whatever, he'll be taking recommendations for these positions. He'll also appoint a local superintendent. He'll appoint a teacher, a principal or other administrator, a member of the local board of education, a member of the state board of education, and a representative from the system office of the University System of Georgia. Now listen, we're thinking about university system is not part of K-12. You say, why are they there? But we may want to involve the Department of Education, that work with teachers because they need to be involved, and the teacher training because that's a critical area. G, a representative from the career, technical, and agricultural system. Now, you need to know there was a change there. This committee, your committee, felt like that needed to be not necessarily career academies, but that needed to be a career, technical, and agricultural system, K-12. That's different from the technical colleges. Look at number 40, H, 2 parents. Right here, representative, right here, my friend, he felt like that we should have 2 parents. We had 1 parent, so we've changed that to add 2 parents at your recommendation. If you look at line I, member of the Professional Standards Commission. Line J, right down here, this group right here felt like we needed a financial officer. I don't know how we left that out, guys. That's the guys that deal with the budget. And Betsy agreed with me yesterday that was a needed one, so we put that one in. Then look at line 43, 3 representatives of the business community. Now listen, these business communities could be parents. They could have children. Most people do, and they probably will. And maybe had somebody in school at a time. So that could be possible. Somebody said, I can't guarantee they've had children, but they probably will. But we'll have 3 business people. 1 will be appointed by the speaker, 1 by the lieutenant governor, and 1 by the governor. We'll have the state school superintendent. And how many of y'all, he spoke the other day, he'll be on there. And then 6 members of the House of Representatives appointed by the Speaker. And the chairman of the House Education Committee will be one of those. 6 members of the Senate appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, with the chairperson of the Senate Education Youth Committee one. And then the chairperson of the House Education and the Senate will chair this commission. Now, one thing I want to tell you. It says that we will have a staff person working with us, and I can tell you right now, that's going to be John Brown and his staff. They're going to be working with us. It can't get any better people than if we went out all over the world over and paid all kinds of money. We couldn't get anybody better. John, don't expect any more money, buddy. That's just in your... No, we're glad to have John and Christine. All right, now if you look down here, at line 56, the commission may engage additional ad hoc. Now, this was a big discussion item, ad hoc commission, and these will be non-voting members, but will be the working and will bring recommendations to us, and they will be the workhorses for this whole study. And we will appoint these, and probably members of the steering committee will be ad hoc members and will help with these study commissions. But on this, you could have people from, different groups such as counselors, and Representative Morgan up there felt we should have pre-K involved. Now, we felt pre-K is lottery, but who knows? We may decide that may need some help from the basic funding formula. So that's why we felt pre-K should be added. You could have special ed teachers, psychologists, all kinds. You just look on the next page, page 3. We tried to list a lot of agriculture, vocational, media specialists, nutrition managers, and transportation managers. People, it says such as. That tells me it could be more, it could be less. We don't limit ourselves there. Am I right on target, Betsy? Please help me. I don't want to miss anything. All right, now look down here, number D, line 63. The co-chairperson shall be authorized to appoint steering committees composed of members of the commission to monitor the progress and to ensure timelines are being met. People, every meeting we have, I've been in study committees where we say, well, what's happened? No, We're going to have reports. We're going to have work done, and it's going to be a committee. We got to. We only have 2 years to get it done, so we'll have things done. That's that. Any questions, Mr. Chairman, about that section? I'll stop now and let you ask questions.
Any questions for members of the committee? We do have one. Representative Bedden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I was totally prepared to vote for this bill, no questions asked, until I read line 50.
What's that?
The chairpersons of the House Committee on Education and the Senate Education and Youth Committee will serve as co-chairmans of this commission.
Oh, gosh, I'm in trouble.
I'm scared.
I'm scared, too. Thank you for your confidence, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. You really make me feel good. I'm shaking. I'm nervous. Okay. You ready for me to go on?
Mr. Chairman, just one question. On line 39.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
On line 39, the subpart G there.
Yes, sir.
Should the and be an or?
On 39, a representative from the career, technical, and agriculture, or
Should
it be? It's all one group, so it
is all one group?
All one group.
Okay.
I'd refer to my expert over there. Okay.
Representative Carter.
Same line.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Same line. I would, though, like to offer a change to that line to read a representative from career, technical, and agriculture education. I think it's a little confusing with the word system because it could be someone either at the K-12 or the TCSG system, but either way, that should be an option, I think, for the governor to decide if he wants a K-12 or a TCSG. Yeah. I just don't think the word system should be there, which would take the word "the" out. And I have no problem with that, and I don't think that would delay the bill, because if y'all would allow these. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm asking Betsy to just jot these recommendations down, and at the end of this discussion, we'll talk about that, and then we can. Okay. But I have no problem with that. If any of y'all, I will talk about that later, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to take over your job. All right. Can I go on?
Any further questions over Section 331? Very well. Section 332.
All right. Look at page 3, if you would, line 67. Now, I think this is important. The commission will hold meetings at the call of the chairperson. The commission shall meet at least quarterly, and subcommittees shall meet as often as needed to complete tasks. That's critical. We may meet more, and I expect it's going to be more. And one thing that's happening this summer, you know, we're looking at an activity we all have, possibly a special session, and this is a good time that some of these committees could be meeting down here, because, you know, there's a lot of downtime that we could be doing a lot of work, some of these people, and y'all could sit in and hear some of that. All right, look at line 70. A quorum for transacting business shall be a majority of the members of the commission. Now, I want to say this to all of you. There's several people who said, ooh, I'd love to be a member. I'd love to be a part. But one thing we're going to insist on, you must attend. We're not going to say, I'll come to some, I'll try. But the people that are picked, especially for the steering committee and these committees, are going to make the commitment. They will be here. When we call the meetings, they'll come, and their systems are going to say, if it's a superintendent or if it's a principal or a teacher, we will allow them to be free, because this is critical. We can't show up and have, that's why we said a majority of the members is a quorum. We can't have just part of the people coming. This is critical. So we want a commitment from the 27 people and from these ad hoc committees that they mean business and they'll be there. And these subcommittees, as they pick their people, or we pick people that's another commitment we want to get, that we, that we will be here and try to get it and get the business done. All right, line 72, and this is the way present law works, Betsy tells me. It's nothing we've added to try to help pay anybody, but it says, any legislative members of the commission shall receive the allowance provided for in Code Section 28(1)-8. Citizen members shall receive a daily expense allowance in the amount specified. That's also by law. Code section, as well as mileage. That's all transportation. Now listen, any member of the commission who are state officials other than legislative members and state employees shall receive no compensation for their services on the commission, but because they already paid a salary. But they shall be reimbursed for expenses incurred, like if we have to go overnight, or if they have a mileage, if we go visit a site, they're trying to do that. The funds necessary on line 80 for the reimbursement of expenses of the state officials other than legislative members and state employees shall come from funds appropriated to or otherwise available to their respective departments. All other funds necessary will come from appropriated funds of the House of Representatives and the Senate. So you see, most of this will be covered already, because most of this committee members, the parents, state board and all of them are already paid. All right, Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions on that one.
Any questions on Section 332? I guess just procedurally, Mr. Chairman, and maybe we can get this answered. If these meetings were held, for example, in the late summer, early fall, when there are reapportionment hearings being held here at the Capitol, then
no.
The compensation
legislators were not getting it because they're working. You cannot double dip. No,
very good. So
that's a good question, though.
So we could take advantage of that.
Take advantage of that, yes, sir. We could. That's a good point.
Very good. Any other questions? Right, you may proceed to Section 333.
If you look at line 86, now this is again, the Commission shall study and evaluate the cost and resources needed to educate a child through review of the following core issues relating to education finances. Now, people, we've tried, as we went through this, as Representative Ash, Carter, Maxwell, and Kaiser can tell you, as we went through this thing, we debated, and we're saying these are the things we need to look at. Now, don't pay a lot of attention to some of the examples we gave. Sometimes giving examples can be a confusion because we can use those or we can go deeper if we want to. But basically, number one, line 88, we've got to look at the QBE formula. People, that's what it's all about. We're going to look at the formula. Look over on the next page, at page 4, line 99. We're going to look at state and local funding partnerships. Now, what do we mean? The 5 mil buy-in, the different kinds of partnership. Is that sufficient? Is that adequate? Do we need to do that? We need to consider what the lawsuit, that we had years ago was doing. We got to look at all that. Look at line 103, an area that we hear all the time, equalization. Trying to equalize the tax dollars all over the state. We need to look at number 4, student transportation. I met with Stacey Abram. I tell you, I had a lot of fun meeting with her when I shared this with her. She had an idea on transportation. She says, why are we wasting money in Atlanta? Why don't we let MARTA transport the Atlanta Public Schools? What an idea. In Gwinnett, why don't we use some of the Gwinnett buses? They say they're idle a lot of the time. I'm not saying totally, but in some of these short routes. That's a good idea in Columbus or whatever. I'm not saying that's what we're going to do, so on television, don't say I said that. But I'm just saying we need to look at all options in transportation. We need to look at number 5. Look at line 109, state school funding. People have a school for the deaf, school for the blind. And, those of us that are on the appropriations subcommittee for education, we've talked about some of the other state schools. Kathy, what was the group we talked about yesterday? The residential. Yeah, that one slipped me. We talked about the residential group. So we need to look at all those. Number 114, capital outlay, people. We need to look at that. Right now we have 3 buckets of money. Do we need to keep that? Number 121, one that's really growing and becoming bigger and bigger every day, is charter schools. We need to look at that. 126, career, technical, agriculture education, dual enrollment, virtual schools. These are just some of the things we need to look at. Look on the next page, page 5, line 131, teacher pay. Do we continue like we are? Right now we have math and science teachers getting additional pay. Do we continue? What do we do with that? Look at 136, non-QBE grants. Now, over the past years, as John mentioned earlier, instead of funding QBE or just increasing QBE, many of our former governors have just said, well, I'll do counselors, I'll do this, I'll just add that grant, instead of making it part of QBE. We need to look at all these non-QBE grant programs we have going. Look at number 141. We need, for once and for all, to take Title 20 and look at it. Are there things we need to throw out that are antiquated? Are there things we need to add? Like, when this thing started, technology was a rotary telephone. We just didn't have a lot. So do we need to look at some of these Title 20 things, and do we need to revise them? Let's look on down now. Mr. Chairman, that's basically, we have a lot of these other things we could do. So it's not only just these, but we could expand it or condense it as we need, okay?
Very good. Representative Ash with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Should any group sitting in the audience be overly concerned that their particular organization or the organizations they represent are not specifically included in one of these lists?
Definitely not. We talked about that in the subcommittee. That's one reason I'm meeting here today. That's one reason I'm meeting the 2 meetings next week and the following week. That's one of the reasons that we will be meeting, with groups all along. Because if they're not, we want to be sure everybody's included. No way. And if you're, only thing I'll say, if you don't speak up, forever hold your peace. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Chairman Coleman, I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
In the spirit of the conversation we just had about being all-inclusive, you're going to kill me, but on line 46
Now you back
and 48 on page 2, lines 46 and 48.
All right.
Is it, in your opinion, I'm wondering if wouldn't be important there to spell out 6 members of the House from each party to really spell it out that this is a bipartisan effort?
You know, I don't think so, because I'm going to tell you, I think the spirit has already been there, and I think the Speaker has made his feeling known. He wanted it bipartisan, and I think he's going to do it. So
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, then I just wanted to ask one other thing. Is it
Yeah.
not true that this originally could have come from the governor, but our committee felt very strongly that this needs to be through the legislative body with the support of the Senate and the ultimate support of the governor. So when it goes back to the people, it is a true bipartisan effort. That's not yet another
Yes.
idea from a governor.
I think you're exactly
it's
right.
relooking at everything without throwing out the ideas from the past.
That's a good comment, and that's one reason that it was insisted on that we talk with the minority leader. We have tried to keep this thing in the sunshine, and that's one reason when one of our members was elected floor leader, we felt like it was time to bring on another member, and we worked at it. So that was important. So I think you're exactly right. One thing that I think is you need to know, the governor is excited about this. The governor plans to make this the first bill that he signs, and he's not wanting to wait until the end of April. You know, you're going to see some of the time. And he'd like, am I not correct, Madam Floor Leader? He would like this done quickly, moved on through, because he wants to go ahead and make their appointments and get this thing moving. So he's committed to this. And when we met with the governor, I was excited about how he feels the same way you do, Representative Kaiser. He wants it to be bipartisan. He wants it to be in the sunshine. He wants it to be and get something done. Am I correct? All right.
Any other questions on this section? Very well. Next section.
All right. If you'll look now at line 155, page 5, one thing that's going to be critical for this study to be successful, we've got to have some help. And so this next section on lines 155 on over really to 168, we're just talking about all the people that could help us. We can use the State Department. We can use Mr. Brown's office. We can use Legislative Council. We can use, just all groups. Every one of you in here could be used. University system, technical colleges, professional standards. I mean, this is just a partial list. The sky's the limit. And I can guarantee you all going to be called on to contribute. Mr. Dolinger over there, I know y'all have done tons with the stuff, and so and you've been a former superintendent, and so you know that all these people will be involved. You may be chairing committees. Told Sally the other day, don't fret. You may have more to do. You may be begging for relief. So we plan to keep you all involved. So that's what that is, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Any questions on that section? We have one. Representative Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It's sort of on the prior section.
Oh, the prior section, okay.
But really just more of a comment. I like the approach that this is very comprehensive and not just focused strictly on QBE. And the reason I mention that is QBE may not be a good formula, but we don't really know because when's the last time we actually funded it?
Yeah.
You know, so coming up with a new
Never.
formula isn't really very valuable. I'll bet the schools would be really happy if we fully funded the current formula.
They would.
So I just want to, express my appreciation for the fact that you're being very comprehensive in what you're going to look at.
And let's decide what it is. Let's decide what it's going to be costing. Let's really do it right. Thank you for that comment. All right. Mr. Chairman?
Ready for the last two sections.
All right, the last section, and I think this is very important. One thing that you heard Mr. Brown say that we missed in all these studies, we did not have a timeline. We let them go on and on and on. One thing the governor insisted on is, isn't that right, Representative Carter? He wanted he wants some legislation now, and that's going to be introducing this bill. He's excited. There's some activity. He made some promises, and he wants it done. He's a man of action. I appreciate that. So we've set some realistic timelines, but we're saying that no later than May 15th, the commission members will be appointed. That's why we want to go ahead and get the bill passed, get it signed, and get the governor on board. Everybody do their appointments. Get them started. Have our first meeting by now. Listen, it says no later. That doesn't mean we can't do it the next week, but by June the 30th. September, now listen to this one. I think this is very good. September the 30th, 2011, interim recommendations completed. And then December the 31st, proposed legislation, and that's what the governor wants. He wants us to have him some legislation that's going to put into place things that we want to do to go ahead and get this implemented to do. September 2012, final recommendations. December the 31st, 2012, proposed legislation for final recommendations completed. One thing you'll notice down at the bottom, this commission is dissolved March 31st, 2013. That's important. But it stays on long enough so that during that session, if there's anything, recommendations or advice the governor needs, we'll be there to give it to him. One thing that Representative Casas wanted put in this, if you look at line 179, he was concerned, let's suppose something happens, we want to go before these dates, or maybe we can't quite make that date. But that the General Assembly provided, however, that the commission may modify these dates if necessary. Hopefully we don't. But you know, on May 15th, maybe we need to go to May 17th. But we need to stay online, and my intent is to see that it's moving and gets it done. I'd love to see, things happen earlier. So, Mr. Chairman, that's that recommendation. Oh, I want to say one thing that I think is critical. Line 181, look at that, probably the most important thing in the whole bill. The final recommendation shall include something we've never done before, a prioritization of all recommendations, including those that do and do not require additional fundings. Such recommendations shall include a proposed timeline for implementation of recommendations and an estimated cost for each recommendation and a target year for including it in the state budget. People, that's what we've never had. We can't do it all at once. We know that. If the Ways of Magic wand, we would. But let's prioritize it. We're going to say everybody will know. Classroom's going to be first, supposedly. Next will be this as money becomes available. And let's don't have any special categorical grants. Let's do it in QBE. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Any questions now that you have heard the full bill? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I do commend you and everyone that has worked on this for this review. I would encourage, whether it's during the study or during the final recommendations or as we go through this, just as we do with other parts of government or other parts of the budget, I think that because technology is moving so quickly now in our days, I mean, when we adopted QBE, we didn't even know what Windows was. And so I think it would be great to have in the statute a periodic review of QBE once this final one is adopted, that we can come back and keep looking at it and keep it updated so that we don't find ourselves a quarter century later trying to relook
where
at
we
that
are
one.
now. See, that was supposed to have been done and has never been. So we're going to get it done, and I agree. Need to put it in statute, and you young guys and gals out there, you need to hold the governor's feet to it.
Very well. Representative Maxwell, you're recognized.
Move to pass, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. There is a motion for due pass in a second, but before we do that, we do have some amendments that have been offered.
I want to add that one line comment that Representative Carter.
Representative Carter, if you want to state your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Line 39, letter G. I want to strike the words "the" and "system" out of that line to read a representative from career, technical, and agriculture education. CTAE is how we refer to that. I don't think so. We use it as an acronym, CTAE, but I don't unless you're. I'd feel better. Would you?
Any more discussion on this amendment? Very well. It's been proposed. Is there a second on this amendment? Very well. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Very well. That's been amended. Now we have a motion for a due pass on House Bill 192 by substitute and as amended, LC 334031S. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Send it to Rules quickly. Okay.
Very well. Now we will hear House Bill 172.
All right, members of the committee, Mr. Chairman, thank you. House Bill 172. Thank you all so much. 172. I think we can go through this one quickly. Thank you so much for coming, all members of the committee. I appreciate it. One thing I'd like to do, this is also, we had 3 study committees this summer. We really had a good summer. And this second bill is part of some of the study committees. Representative Carter chaired one. Representative Nix, where are you? He chaired one. We chaired one. We had these things going. And again, bipartisan support. We had Senate and House members together. This one here, now look at 172. Let me tell you basically what it does, and then I'll take your questions. What this bill does, it's already a law. It's already in effect. Everything in here is taking place. But by the year 2013, what we're telling 180 school systems they must do, all of these flexibilities and all these things are disappearing, and they must choose one of 3 things. They must choose to either be a IE² system, must choose to be a charter system, or must choose to be like they are and be under the jurisdiction of the state, whatever that may be. We're not sure what that'll be at that time. What we're suggesting, and we feel, and this came from the committee and from our study committees, since we are doing this, and we also received a grant from Race to the Top, and I hate Representative Morgan left because she's working on a piece of legislation that's also looking at some of the things with Race to the Top, that we felt in talking with the Speaker, the Governor, and the committee, a lot of us, that it would be best, and we have some former board members in here that felt that way, to let's extend that 2013 date to 2015. By that time, we'll be through with this study, the QB study. We'll know, are we going to still have IE²? Are we going to still have, what are we going to have? What's it going to be? Are we going to have Race to the Top finished? Are we going to, what are some of their recommendations? They're looking at 3 things. They're looking, the information system, the performance evaluation. They're looking at the curriculum and several other things. Randy's committee is looking at the math, the technical, the move on when ready. So many things are being looked at. We felt it's best, let's extend this till then. And one thing we asked for, I think Representative Ash, you asked for that, at the State Department. Are they here today? Where's my State Department people? There they are. We've asked them to provide for us, the next meeting, all the information that we have about what happened with class sizes, what happened with contracts, what happened with flexibility. Give us a list of how many asked for flexibility for expenditure control, how many systems asked for class size extension, how many asked for that. Because on March 15th, we're to have that data. We're supposed to have it. So we'll be going over that in the next couple of weeks, too. But basically what it does, look at your bill. On line 22, am I right, Betsy? It's changing that date to 2015. That's what it's doing. And then all this other stuff, people, is already the law, just expel it. And then again on page 3, line 61, 62, change it 2015. And I'm going to tell you one other thing it does. And on 73, 2015, on line 73, also it changes on line 85, 86, 2015, but it also puts all of these bills together. We have the contract extension. We said it's supposed to be April the 1st. We've extended that to, May the 15th. Now I want to say something. That contract extension is, I've talked with a group of teachers, and I've talked with with the teachers and with different groups. Some say, we need to do it. But a lot of teachers say, that gives me a little more time with the downsizing many systems are doing. That gives me a little extra time to find another job. Also, the systems say, hey, it gives us a little time to be sure before we have to make decisions. So it's good for both. So that's the only thing it does is put all of these class expenditure controls, class sizes, all these flexibilities, extends them to 2015. They're already in the law. It's just giving the state board the right to, and remember, they just can't do it. They have to notify the state board. The state board has to grant the exemptions. Is that not correct? And so they still got the control. So that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Representative Thomas with a question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So I recall that when we passed this change in the law to extend to enlarge class size to 2013, there was some discussion about extending it out that far. And the reason we finally did it for that date was because of consideration of the downturn in the economy, and we expected that revenues would rebound by then, and we would be able to.
And it hasn't rebounded, they said.
By 2013.
Right.
We're in 11 now.
Right.
So, So now we're extending it out even further and coming up with a different reason for that may or may not actually come to fruition. You know, we'll have some recommendations out of that committee, but there's no guarantee any of the funding is going to change by then. So I'm really concerned about extending these class size waivers out that far, given that, you know, I mean, we had some real justification perhaps for doing it last time, but it seems to me that, you know, if you open this up a little bit and agree on what the parameters are, the next year we come around and we start to change those parameters for a completely different reason. So when are we ever going to reduce these? I have no confidence that we're not going to turn around and say, well, you know, we've done this until 2015. Why don't we just keep doing it forever?
But you know what we could find? After we complete the study in 2013, we could change everything and put it back there. You're just right. We could put it back just like we're extending it. We don't feel, I serve on the Education Funding Committee, just like several of you on here. We don't see any real relief through the next year's budget or the following. And you're right, I think 14, 15 to start. We have completed, hopefully, the QBE study, and hopefully we'll have some recommendations. I mean, do we know that we want to, I'm not saying, I don't want to go back and say we're eliminating any of these programs. Will we still have IE Square? Would that be an option? Would we still have, I mean, we have charter school, would it be systems? Would it be some other way? What would the salary schedule look like? So this will give us time and data. I'm looking forward to getting this information from the state because I'm almost positive that we have not seen a lot of abuse, any abuse in the class sizes. They've been good stewards of it. I'm interested in seeing how they've done their funds. The media specialist spoke to us the other day. They were concerned about, you know, eliminating media centers. No, they haven't. They're all still there. Now they've changed some funds and redirected some of the funds in different places. But we trust our systems. I think we say that charter systems are great because of the flexibility, giving them this flexibility. We've got data to see how they can do. And we can always, let me tell you, just like we extend it, we can bring it back. So I think they need it where we get these studies done, race to the top. That's my reasoning.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
thank you for your question.
With all due respect, when do we ever bring things back?
Well, we could. Well, we're going to change a lot of things. I think we brought things back a lot the time since I've been down here and in education. We've dropped class sizes way down over the years, and we still haven't extended them. We just given some flexibility. Thank you.
Well, Representative Taylor for the question.
Yes, sir. He waves.
He waves. Representative Reese.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, you know my concern is class size.
Right.
That I have very young grandchildren, as
Right.
many people on this panel have.
I do too, yeah.
And very young children,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact. And extending this flexibility, I wonder, Mr. Chairman, why are we making this decision this year? Why could we not wait until next year or the next year and see how the economy is going then, and then extend it if necessary? I don't see. I'm bothered by the same thing that Representative Thomas is, that this will become a permanent.
I want to ask you a question. Do you trust your superintendent board?
In most cases.
Well, then, I just ask you, do you think they've made the right decisions this year? I just ask you. Your superintendent and your board?
I can't answer that
okay.
in front of a TV camera.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from members of the committee? I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
My system is on a 4-day school week.
I know it. I know it.
In an effort to not
save money.
let teachers go.
Right. And I commend them for taking care of it.
And in an effort to cut down on furlough days, which we have placed.
I was proud of them. That's why I say I was proud of your system.
So I'm not sure about the 4-day school week. You know, I think the statistics haven't shown yet, just like we have no current statistics on the effect of a larger class size.
Right. You know, one thing that I say, if people aren't pleased with what you're doing, what do they do, Representative Reese? They love you. You've been in here ever since I have. They love you. They keep you in office, don't they? Because they love you. And if they don't like the school board, what do people do? They can move them on. So that's it. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Taylor with a question.
Yes, sir.
One brief question, Mr. Chairman. I have the same concerns that Chairman Thomas and Representative Reese have about the class size. Should we wait until we get this data to do this? Is there a reason that we're doing this
I think
today?
The reason, and I don't want to get just bogged down in the class size, we're looking at flexibility, giving schools the right to survive, physically with their financial dues and whatever. And as the State Department will tell you, the number one way to save money is class size. Gwinnett County, one student added to each classroom could save over 250, I think, David, wherever you are, 250, 300 teachers. One student. My daughter teaches second grade in Gwinnett County, and I can say they have not they've done everything they could to take care of the class size. They have not done. That's one of the largest school systems, and but this flex, and the reason we're doing it now because we know that we want to finish the QBE study, we want to finish the Race to the Top study, then make some blanket decisions about where this education should go in relation to all of this, and so. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Representative Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, can you give us an idea of when we will have the data? Remember we discussed the systems that have gone from 180 to 120
Yeah, we've
days?
asked for it to be given to us by March the 15th, is what the law says. And we've been, where's my state people? Right here, Mr. Wilson. Stand up, Mr. Wilson. Do y'all know Mr. Wilson? There's your target right there. There's your gentleman. No, they've assured us. Representative Ash, I think you asked that question in subcommittee, and we were promised that we would have the data. He gave us some great data, you remember, about the class size. What was 120-something systems had asked for that, and they promised us we'd have a report on by the 15th. It may be before, so thank you.
So I feel certain you would object to my asking to table this until we have more
I would be very
information.
upset if you did.
Okay. I thought
but
that was going to be your answer.
That's your privilege. That's your privilege.
Representative Ash with a question.
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Chairman, is it not true that I've been one of the people who has fought over class size reductions over the years?
You sure have.
And is it not true that I have come to believe that in times of bad economic health, when we are cutting the QBE formula in drastic ways, that we need to have faith in our school systems to use whatever tools they can use to best serve their individual district. And that by saying we're going to let systems have larger classes, we're not directing them to do that at all. We're just preserving that as one of the options, just like we've given them the option to cut the calendar, to cut the school day, to do all sorts of things, to put teachers on furlough. I quite frankly can't sit here and say as a state legislator, we ought to keep class sizes low, but teachers can't work 20 days a year. I have to have faith that the local school boards have the ability to know their students, their families, and their communities. Is it not true that it pains me greatly to vote for this bill, but I don't think we have a choice?
I know that the lady knows what she speaks, and I know she believes that with all her heart.
Representative Maxwell with a question.
Mr. Chairman, is it not true that the IE Square systems and the charter systems already have complete flexibility in everything they want to do?
Complete.
And we're just going ahead and allowing this flexibility for our public schools if they want it, and it comes through the Department of Education.
Representative Maxwell, that's a good point. We, under these laws, and there are 2 IE Square systems in the state, Forsyth and Gwinnett, the largest, probably the most of the students in the state. Is that not correct? A former board member of Forsyth. And we have several that are IE Squared, that are charter systems, and they can completely do what they want. So you're right, and we feel that, and charter schools can anywhere, and so we feel that we need to trust these boards of education, and at the ballot box every 2 years, we have a right to let them our feelings be known. You're correct. Thank you so much.
Representative Thomas with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, isn't it also true, however, that the way current law exists right now, that all of these non-IE Square or charter school systems have this flexibility all the way through the 2012-2013 school year? in order to provide them with that flexibility to combat these very difficult economic times. We are talking about extending this into further years that we know nothing about.
We know, we have our budget people, well, Christine's here, that we know the budget is not going to improve that much. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members of the budget subcommittee here today with us that know things aren't. Matter of fact, we're cutting a lot of money this next year. We know it's going to be a couple of years, and we're simply saying, with these studies, and the reason we're saying that is not that I feel this urgent, because it's come back next year and do it this year. Let's go ahead, let the schools take it off their minds where they don't have to worry about it. Let them go ahead and long-range plans, plan on out there, say, I know I've got till 215. Let's watch them, let's plan with them, and give them that flexibility. And then we'll have the 2 major studies done of Race to the Top and the QBE study, hopefully, and we will be able to. And then, hey, technically, if nothing is done, in 2015, everything reverts back to right where it is,
Mr. Chairman, if somebody in this room can tell me what the revenues are going to be in January of 2012, I'll be real shocked. How on earth are we coming to the determination that we know at this moment that in 2013 the economy is still going to be bad?
We don't.
We
don't. We assume. So how much are we behind?
But your argument here, from what I understand, isn't that we are extending this out to 2015 because of the bad economy. So that's not why we're extending it.
We're allowing the schools to go ahead and have the freedom to start planning, to be able to take all the pressure. Come on up here. To have all the pressure off of them, and to be able to do some planning without saying, next year, I've got to turn and decide if I'm going to be charter, if I'm going to be IE squared, or what I'm going to do. This is given them to the 2015 to do it. Let Christine speak.
Now, they're not planning next month on what they're going to do in 2015, though, are they?
No. Well, I'm sure that some of them are thinking about that. I think they would be. Let Christine address your question.
Hi, I was just going to add that right now where we're standing rolling into the 12 budget, we're looking at over $1 billion in austerity. And even as things get better, there's not going to be a way that we're going to be able to put all of that back. So there will be a continued reduction until things get better. And so I think that's what this legislation is addressing.
Right. Just to clarify, so the fiscal year 12 budget correlates with the school year 2011-2012?
Yes.
Okay. And so then we have the school year 2012-2013, which would be fiscal year
13.
Okay. And so that's a year away, a year and a half away. Okay.
But what I'm saying is there's an
what we're saying, I think, is we don't really know right now.
Well, and
if we do know, we can come back next year and extend things for that reason if we need to.
Well,
or am I putting words
in
your mouth?
I'm going to put it to you this way. You have a right to vote the way you want. I feel with all my heart that we need to do this. We need to give the schools the flexibility. I trust my schools. I trust my parents. We can sit here and argue that all day, whether it's going to get better or not. We don't know. But I think that what we have is flexibility. Let us go ahead and do these studies. Let's get it ready and go on. So, Mr. Chairman, I ask that you go ahead and pass this bill and let people vote the way they want to.
Absolutely. Representative Kaiser.
Thank you. I just have one brief question. Mr. Chairman, is it not true that I supported this bill before? I may have been a co-sponsor of it.
Yes, you did.
And I'm involved in the school with the highest amount of flexibility.
Yes, you are. The highest in the state, flexibility. And they're doing great, I understand.
Representative Nix.
Yes, I had just wanted to call the question.
Very well. Representative Nix would like to call it. Is that what? Any more questions? We wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to ask their questions and get them answered. We're satisfied. Very well. We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor of due pass on House Bill 172, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign?
No.
I think the ayes have it. This bill will receive a due pass to the Rules Committee. This committee will now consider House Bill 173.
I want a chair. I'm tired of being presenting. This one should be a piece of cake. Good Lord, I hope so.
But please, let's not preface it that way. This is the Education Committee, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Thomas, you and I go out in the hall and talk about this one. Okay, my friend. I want y'all to know that Representative Thomas and I represent the same county, and our counties have IE Square. They're doing what they want to anyway, aren't they? They are. Isn't that right, Representative Clark? You're right there with it. All right, let's go to this one. This is from Kelly Henson. And Amy, is this part of your subcommittee? I think when y'all did the PSC, that look, it may be part of it. So it's a housekeeping piece of legislation. And what happens now? The PSC needs to put this. Betsy, help me out with this now. They need to put into legislation the ability to expungement, getting rid of, destroying records pursuant to this section in accordance with an established records retention schedule. And basically, if you look at number 18 down here, line 18 is what it's saying. If after reviewing the findings of the preliminary investigation, now that's the commission investigating a person or someone, the commission finds that no problem cause exists to recommend disciplinary action, or the educator investigated is exonerated after hearing that all records of the commission's investigating and of any hearings by the commission, including all reports received pursuant to this subsection, that they be completely expunged or destroyed. And that way it's a new life for that person. So that's what it says. And they needed that to be put into record. Now they can't do that. That's the way they're doing it, and that person is cleaned.
Very well. Any questions on House Bill 173? Representative Maxwell.
I just move do pass.
Very well. I have a do pass in a second. Any other discussion on this? Very well. All in favor of a do pass motion on House Bill 173, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Very well.
Try to.
Mr. Chairman, we're now going to hear your bill.
Motion to adjourn.
Hey, you're the vice chairman. You want to do this?
Oh, we're getting this one through.
Is there a copy of it up here, I hope? You got a copy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time we are going to be taking up, members of the committee, we're going to be taking up House Bill. Let's see, this is coming from the Committee on Academic and Innovation. So the chairman is not here, so the vice chair, Representative Clark, this is House Bill 175. What was the recommendations of the subcommittee on this bill? And what's your number? 10, all right?
It's 10.
Should be on.
Mr. Chairman, the result of House Bill 175 from the Subcommittee on Academic Innovations was a do pass, and the vote was unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, so Representative Casas, if you'll go ahead and present your bill.
Thank you. Members of the committee, House Bill 175 is titled the Online Clearinghouse Act, and it's just one more step to try to get Georgia into the 21st century. We have, as I told the subcommittee this morning, as we continue to travel around the country, Georgia's reputation is slowly turning around, and even as we have been the punchline of jokes for a long time as far as education is concerned, now there's many that are saying, we really like what you're doing down there. And we're really trying to think outside the box and be able to do everything we can to improve education, reform it, and do everything we can for our kids. The Online Clearinghouse Act in itself is just in a nutshell, what we're doing is providing an opportunity for school systems to take their courses and develop them for online instruction. And what will happen is that the local school system will take those courses, put them into this clearinghouse that will be run by the department, and it will be made available to every student in the state. The receiving, or I would say the home local systems would then allow the students to take the course. The students would do that just as they were in a classroom. They're just taking it online, and obviously online instruction is not for everybody, but we're certainly making it available to all. And as I go through the bill, we'll talk about some of the mechanisms of how this is going to occur. So I will ask you to join me. Section 2, as you see there on page 1, begins the definitions. And one of the definitions here was just a promise that we had to fulfill with Representative Kaiser. She wanted to make sure that we were clear as to the participation of charter schools. And so on lines 21 and 24, we made sure that that definition was there, because the charter school is a very expanded definition. It means a lot of things now in Georgia, and so we wanted to make sure that we knew what we were talking about. On page 2, you see the definitions continuing, but then in subsection B, part 1, it's that nutshell of the purpose of what this bill is going to do. It's going to allow the department to establish this clearinghouse for these distance learning and computer-based courses. In subsection 2, we see how the application process will occur. Basically, a local system or a charter school will apply to the department in order to put their courses into the clearinghouse. And it explains there what that application must contain. They must be able to provide the ability to deliver the course as far as technology is concerned, as far as the qualifications of the teacher is concerned, as far as the course and the course objectives are concerned. In subsection 3 is review of the application, and basically the department will then take the application and make sure that the system has the technology to be able to deliver the course, as far as make sure that the course is up to par with the standards and I guess with the goals generally of education in Georgia. Subsection 4 is just the cataloging on how they will do it, and provide for a listing of the course. If we go to page 3, in subsection C, part 1, we start talking about the qualification of the student, what is required for the student to participate in this. And the main thing is that the student must be enrolled either in a local school or in a charter school, and they will have access to these courses. Subsection 2 is registration and how the student will register for these courses, and it just gives some guidelines there. Subsection 3 provides for the facilities, so that local systems can decide where these courses will be delivered and how they will be offered. Subsection 4 is how a student may withdraw from the course, and providing just some general language there as to doing that. In subsection 5, we come into a very interesting part of this, and which is the funding. The simple mechanism of this would be that there is a school system offering the course in the clearinghouse. Let's, for the sake of argument so we don't get confused, we're going to call that System Y. This is the system that's offering the course, that's designed it, the teacher's ready, it's in the clearinghouse, it's being offered. In System X, there is a student that wishes to take that course. What will happen is the student will enroll in that course, and the department will determine a fee for that course. So it's on the department side. They will determine what the fee for that course will be. They will also determine what portion of that fee will go to compensate the teacher, because the teacher is taking on more responsibility with a student outside that system. When the student in System Y takes the course, that fee is transferred over to System X, who's delivering the course, and they will use that in order to pay for the technology and also to compensate the teacher. They will also assign the grading. That is all in, if you look at page 4, is in subsection C. They will assign the grading for that course, and basically they will transfer that grade over, and that's what will be assigned for the student that's taking that. In subsection F, it basically gives the department the ability to offer these clearinghouse courses to students that are non-public students, and really just asking for a collaboration with the Georgia Virtual Schools, because they do have the platform for this and for this technology, and certainly there will be a collaboration between the department and the virtual schools in order to offer this. in a sense, this is the mechanisms in there, and we'll certainly take questions on this. But what we're trying to get at here is that now students from all over the state will be will have access to a whole catalog of courses that the department would have that are being offered in different places of the state. And now every single student in Georgia has access to these courses simply by taking them online and enrolling through the clearinghouse. So, Mr. Chairman, that is the Online Clearinghouse Act, and I'm ready for any questions.
Very good job. So we have several questions. The board's lighting up, so I'll try to take them in order. So if everybody's to bear with me. Number 23. All right, Representative Maxwell. All right.
Representative Casas, I appreciate you bringing this bill. I think it's probably a good piece of legislation. I need to think about it a minute here, but the only question I've got is we're putting. It appears to me a great deal of possibly legwork or some extra work on the Department of Education. Have we talked to them as far as a fiscal note or what it's going to do to impact them, especially in the time when
we certainly have through Legislative Council. We've asked for a fiscal note on finding out what will be the cost for setting up the clearinghouse in itself. We did hear from the department in the subcommittee today, and certainly they are on board, and I could tell from the testimony they were enthusiastically on board, because it is certainly an opportunity for students that just don't have access to foreign language, don't have access to advanced placement, et cetera, et cetera. Now they're able to do this, and they're able to access it through the online clearinghouse. And so we don't have a price tag on it. We're looking at it and trying to get that fiscal note. We don't believe it's going to be an exuberant cost because the platform and as far as the technology to deliver this is already out there.
Dr. Wilson with the State Department this morning felt it was a great thing, and it would bring the South Georgia schools and some of the North Georgia rural schools that don't have it right into the classroom where they can get some of the more advanced classes, advanced placement, and just regular classes that they aren't able to obtain.
Follow up, if I could, just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
So I don't see any implementation dates or dates that we're looking for this to go into effect. So I guess is it just as the funds become available or whenever they say they can do it?
That is correct, because it's really initiated by the local system.
Okay.
Once the mechanism or the structure is in place and the department can handle the clearinghouse, or the clearinghouse comes online, let's say that, then the local systems decide totally whether they want their courses online or not. So
Okay.
It's initiated at that level.
Thank you.
All right. Next I have 22, Representative Carter. All right.
I love options for students anyway, but can you really identify, though, the difference between this and the virtual schools?
Very well. The virtual school you actually have to enroll in, where this is a student that maybe is enrolled in their brick and mortar public school, local public school. They have 6 periods, but instead of having to take one of those throwaway electives because there's just nothing else, or they have to sit in a class that they really don't need, but because there's just no other teachers available, now they can take more enriching courses, more advanced courses in a computer lab during that period. And we would add that the teacher who's offering this course has an additional student, but now also has an additional incentive to offer their courses online. And so it's really benefiting both sides here.
Get a moment, okay. 17.
What I don't understand is how the chargeback is going to work, and how that's going to work, particularly with students who are not enrolled in public schools or in home study programs. And I guess I've never understood, what does it cost to have a slot of virtual learning?
I'll take the last question first. I don't know. I think that those answers could certainly come from the virtual school to see what those costs are. But what we've done with the bill, the second question, is the department will determine what that fee should be. That's in
line 108.
In line 108, they're determined, well, that's going to be for the non-public. Let me get to that question in just a moment. Let's back up a little bit to line 88. And we see that the department will set the appropriate fee for the 1-credit courses and the half-credit courses. So they're going to determine what the costs are for delivering that course. That's the fee that's being transferred from one system to another. Included in that fee is going to be determined by the department under line 97 what part of that fee goes to the compensation of the teacher. So the department's going to determine this. And of course, they're going to work with Georgia Virtual School because that will certainly give them a platform and at least a starting point for this. Now, for your question on your non-public students, they pay the fee.
I guess maybe this is something that comes into the QBE Study Commission, but how these dollars show up in a state budget when they're going back and forth, and how a teacher gets paid accordingly, and how, yeah, I mean, the T&E for a teacher, for instance, and this gets real murky to me. And what I really don't understand, I guess, is how virtual schools determine how much it costs.
And I guess that would be a question certainly for the virtual school. With the language in this bill in particular, what we're doing is we're saying for it to be straightforward. The department will say for a 1-credit course, this is the fee. For a half-credit course, this is the fee. And of that fee, this is what's going to compensate the teacher, whatever that will be, and it's straightforward. The teacher will know based on number of students and offering that course online what that compensation will be.
So you presume that a teacher would teach all online, or that a teacher might be in a building 5 periods a day and have 1 period of virtual teaching and be compensated differently for
that question came up in subcommittee, and we certainly...
I'm sorry, I'm not on that one.
No, that's fine. But what was answered with that, and we also asked that question of the DOE, is that there's so many ways at the local level how a teacher can deliver this. The more obvious, or probably the more feasible, is what we see in other states that have implemented this, like the state of Ohio, where the teacher is actually still has a brick and mortar classroom, but the class is being broadcast online. And so she's handling not just the ones that are there, but the additional online students that are there for that section of the course.
And one last thing about it, how does GPTV fit into this?
Well, they're not included in the language, but...
so could they not provide classes to the clearinghouse?
The platform in any way is really up to the department to determine which courses end up in the clearinghouse. The language in here in particularly is for the local systems to initiate, but we do give liberty to the department to determine which courses they will offer and to whom.
I think it's an oversight to leave GPTV out of the creator of courses, because they're doing a lot of that already.
Right, and I'd certainly, we could definitely look at that, and that could be just something that is handled at the department level as to getting partnerships in order to deliver this clearinghouse.
Okay. All right, we have it. This order, I'll be calling on 2, 1, and 16. 2. That's Representative Thomas, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Costas, can you tell me a little bit more about the actual classes themselves? Are these like lectures that have just been videotaped? I mean, the language in here says interactive, but I don't really know. I mean, what would a student see?
There's a whole gamut. That's really going to be determined at the local level when they design the course. There's many precedents in a sense, or many models out there as to what Georgia Virtual Schools are doing, as to what other private virtual schools are doing. Right now, the delivery method for courses run the gamut from having online chat discussions to where you're having live broadcasting, to where you're having projects that are being done collaboratively through the online program as students collaborate with each other in that way. There's the ones that are asynchronous, and then there's the ones that are synchronized. And so there's so many ways of delivery that is just determined at the local level and whether that course meets those standards.
So what kind of topics are these courses usually?
Well, it's really open, but we're probably anticipating that your regular schedule is probably not going to be something a local system is going to want to offer. More than likely, what will end up on the clearinghouse are your more advanced courses, some of the courses that are more electives, maybe some foreign language courses, things like that a student probably doesn't have access to in other areas. But certainly if we're talking about your basic, let's say, Algebra 1 course, probably wouldn't end up online because every system has an algebra teacher for the most part. And so we're seeing probably your more advanced and your more elective courses ending up in the clearinghouse. We're not putting that kind of limitation in the bill, but that's what we're probably anticipating will happen.
Number one.
Thank you, Mr.
Representative
Chairman.
Reese.
Thank you. I do like this idea. I would be interested in a fiscal note. I do believe it will be expensive to set up, expensive to operate in order to keep the information current. I think extending the application of this to staff development would also be something to think about.
I think that would be something to think about. I do disagree on the cost, especially as you play this out. Technology has become so inexpensive that the way that you deliver courses, in a sense, maybe there would be some startup costs in order to implement the clearinghouse itself. But we're seeing all over, even with universities that are taking their full degrees and putting them online, is that they're realizing that it's a very cost-effective way. The cheapest way to deliver something is through the internet. And so I am interested in seeing it, but I'm being told that it's not going to be that expensive, especially with just platforms that have already been put in place with Georgia Virtual Schools, and of course we're talking a delivery at that point. In itself, we want to look at it, and I don't believe this bill would go forward in rules until that fiscal note is available.
I want to ask you, the board's like, I'm going to ask you to keep your questions to one, and we'll move on, because I'm going to try to give everybody at least one, then I'll come back around if we need to. All right, 16. Yeah.
Thanks for limiting.
But now since you didn't know it, you've waited. I'm going to give you, go to it, my friend.
And you answered one of the other states that do this. You said Ohio. Yeah. Do you know any other states that do it this way, where the State Department?
There's others considering it, but
we'd be on the cutting edge.
We're on the cutting edge.
My second question, and others have talked about, is just the cost. I have no idea how much this will cost. I assume it costs something. There's no implementation date, so would this be subject to funding from the General Assembly? How do you see that playing out?
If the cost is significant, it certainly will be.
Or even if it's $100,000.
Whatever that, and we don't think it'll probably get up that high, but because what you're doing is establishing a place where you're going to house this and you're going to catalog it. It will be based on appropriations. It will be based when the department is ready to roll out the clearinghouse. And until that happens, then the systems will wait in order to begin to transform their courses.
And my final quick question, Mr. Chairman, because
I'm a fan
of school choice. Not all choice, but a lot of choice.
Yeah.
Do you how many students do you see taking part? I mean, like, how many courses and students do you see?
Like everything, we can't look at this and think that all of a sudden House Bill 175 is going to transform Georgia education forever. It's just another step. Online teaching doesn't work. I said this in subcommittee, and I hope I don't embarrass the representative bringing it up here in the full committee, but I had this conversation with Representative Austin. Especially when I approached him about sponsoring, and he looked at me and said, I'm not a fan of online teaching. And that's just the reality, that this is not going to work for every student. I mean, there's going to be students that parents and teachers are going to say, do not take an online course. That's not going to happen for you. So it's not going to be something where we're seeing a mass movement to it. It's just going to be another option for those students that can. Now, we have to face reality. We're in the 21st century. And online, everything is happening, from social networking all the way to education to getting a doctorate degree. I don't know how much that carries, but anyway, it is available online. And what we're doing here is really opening the options for students all over the state. You know, if you don't have an AP physics teacher in your system, now you can sit down in the computer lab and take a course from a quality AP physics teacher from somewhere in the state that has been recommended highly from their local system. And now the students have the options.
Okay. 12, Representative Howard, is it? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, I do like the idea of online courses, but my question is, and after we can determine some cost here, and I may be behind in my reading here, but is this strictly for public schools?
That is correct. If you will see, I'll direct you to line it's line 63 on page 3. A student who is enrolled in a school operated by a local system or in a charter school may enroll in a course. Now, we do give the department the ability under subsection, if you look on line 104, line 104 on page 4, it allows the department, and it says it may determine the manner in which a course included in the clearinghouse may be offered to a dual enrollment program, to a student that is enrolled in a non-public school, or a home study program. Once the course is in the clearinghouse, the department can determine how they would make that course available. Now, if it's offered to a student that is outside of a public school, that student will just have to pay the fee. Whereas a student that is in the public school system simply just enrolls in the course. And the fee transfer happens system to system.
Okay. All right. All right, number 11. Is there anyone there? No question? All right. They waived. They have 28 next. Yes. Is that Representative Battle, okay?
Yes. Could you share with us how the testing of those students who take this, it's not dealt with here, but
that's right.
How can you keep that and, of course, not end up in some accreditation problems?
That also happens at the design of the course. It's at the local level that will be decided. What's happening at the Georgia virtual level is that a course that requires an end-of-course testing, there's a supervised administration of the test. If there's an AP exam that needs to be taken, there's also a supervised administration of that test. So the local system, when they're designing the course, picking the teacher and getting everything together, and they go through the application process of getting that course onto the clearinghouse, that will be determined at that level as to what testing will be required for that course.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. 27. That's Representative Kaiser.
Yes, sir. I thought you were overlooking me for a reason.
Oh, I'm coming on down the line.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, thank you for making the amendments that I asked for in subcommittee. I just want to clarify, it is correct that if just as a parent, I want to pay the fee, my child can go on and take an extra Spanish course or whatever is offered in the clearinghouse.
If the department makes it available. So what we've done is we've given the department latitude to, they may determine to make these courses within the clearinghouse available to students. We haven't told them that they will, and we don't know if they will, but we certainly give them the ability to do so.
Right.
Now, as far as charter schools and local schools, they will have it.
Right.
All right,
Thank
number 24.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up to Representative Kaiser real quick, I know that in Forsyth County we're rolling out limited taking some of our online offerings and offering them people out of district for a fee. So it's already going on in some places. Would you say it's not true that since these budget cuts, a lot of systems have had to lay off or reduce program offerings, especially some of these specialty items? And even though we might have a small overhead cost at the DOE, overall, if you look at the whole state, this is going to make us more efficient with having specialty teachers from this system being able to use all over the state and prevent in the future us having to hire a lot of specialty programs around the state. So though there might be a small startup cost, I would assert that it may very well be true that overall we will be more efficient and more cost effective as a whole state.
I totally agree, Representative Dudgeon, and what it does is it lets us as a state spotlight our very best. And those teachers that are great in one locality, why should they be limited by geography? Let all the students of Georgia benefit from it.
All right, number 16, that is. Oh, okay, you got back. Come on in there, Representative. I'm late. Round two. This is the last question. Matter of fact, last light up there.
And I may have found the answer on line 33 and 34. Only public schools or charter schools can offer courses. Would a private school be able to buy into this clearinghouse and say, I want to offer this advanced Mandarin course?
That would be something totally determined in the future as far as this bill is concerned. It's a public or a charter school that will deliver the course.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions we have. There's no comment from the audience because this was heard in subcommittees. So being no further questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Based on that, on the comment of comments on the audience, in the subcommittee we did hear from many of the organizations, and they were definitely approving and behind this bill. So.
Yeah, I was going to say we did not have one negative comment in subcommittee from the audience, and from State Department on down. And so I have number 20. That's Representative Ash. No, excuse me, Representative Austin. I'm sorry.
Sorry, we look alike.
Y'all look a lot alike.
Move to pass.
You do. I will. All right, we have a do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. I will take a comment from Representative Dash.
My unreadiness has to do
with... Are you on?
I'm on.
All right.
My unreadiness has to do with the lack of a fiscal note. Are we passing this on assuming there's going to be one before it gets to the floor? Do we have the authority to pass on a bill that has fiscal impact without a note?
Betsy, is she there? We can pass it on. And, of course, what we're passing, if there's a cost, nothing happens. It will not happen because we don't fund it. And you're on the subcommittee for appropriate. If it's not appropriated, if there's a cost, it would not be moved. However, I would expect if there's a fiscal note and we're getting it, I would expect to have it before it went to the floor. Yeah. Absolutely. Betsy, am I right?
It's the chairman's discretion on
yeah.
the point about whether or not to vote on it.
Before it goes to the floor, if there's a fiscal note, I expect to have it before that. Does that get to your question? Representative Ash, does that take care of what you're talking about? Go ahead, you're on.
You know, I always have a concern that we put things in the law and then we say, well, we never funded it. And it would be a real shame to get people's hopes and excitements and potential up there.
I can't see it being that expensive, but however, if we see, I don't think, as chairman, if I saw it as a big cost, I would I would make the recommendation to rules they hold it.
That's right.
And it is, all of them are subject. If it's not appropriated, hey, if it's not, just like, and I hate to even bring this one up, but just like, well, I won't bring this particular bill, but, no. Okay.
But I can also give assurance, Representative Ash, that it's something that I'm not going to request of the Rules Committee if that fiscal note comes back. I think that it would be something that we would have to recommit to this committee and continue discussing.
And Representative Cass says, I want to ask that if you would, as soon as you receive this, that you bring it to the, and not ask for it until we see to the committee. Is
Absolutely.
That, Representative Dash, that take care? Does that you, Representative Taylor? Does that take care of you? Okay, I want to be sure. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor of do pass. And with the understanding we'll have a fiscal note before it's asked for in rules, pass the rules. And if it's we'll decide that point. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Unanimous. All right. So thank you. And I want to tell you all, I appreciate you staying around. Now let me say this. I want the committee to listen. We're getting ready to hear 2 or 3 pieces of very, very, very critical legislation. I want to insist that the chairs, these subcommittees, that you please attend, and especially on Randy Nix. What's your number? 186. What's your bill number? 186. When that bill is heard, I want to encourage the entire committee to be there. That is a very in-depth, very important piece of legislation. It was worked on very hard, so I'd like for you all to be there. And I would encourage you the next 2, especially education meetings, to try to be here, because I think it's critical. I mean, we have got a package that I think is very critical. Also, we have a couple of things coming across the Senate I think you need to be here to hear too. We'll be taking theirs. And I plan next meeting to have a couple of short presentations that I think you need to hear that I will be talking about, so I'll be getting back with those, but let's plan to be here. Now, have a great weekend. Thank you all for being the best committee around, and have a great weekend. All of you out there, anybody wants to stay with me and defend me, I plan to meet with this group out here. All right.